A match is just one small part of a complete pro wrestling performance. And while there is nothing wrong with dedicating your energy or your efforts toward mastering the in-ring mechanics of wrestling, I do think it's important to acknowledge all those in-ring mechanics are just one part of the job. Today, I want to discuss with you an oft overlooked facet of pro wrestling, your stage presence. And make no mistake about it, the ring is our stage. I'm Mike Quackenbush. This is Till We Make It, and we're counting down my top 8 stage presence tips right now. There is a mindset I want you to adopt. I think it'll be very helpful for the first 6 on my list. At the end, the last 2 are stage presence killers that you must avoid, so stay tuned for that. But at the very top of this, I want you to think of the show as being a party at which you are not only the guest of honor, the person being celebrated, but you are also the person who's going to pick the music that everybody else dances to. And as you internalize that mindset a little bit, as you start to inhabit it, we have to consider the costuming choices that you're going to make, both in terms of presentation gear, that's what you wear only for your entrance and then shed before the bell, but also the gear that you're going to be wrestling for the entire duration of your match. Why am I laughing? Nothing has happened. Here we go. So my first stage presence tip speaks directly to this topic, that of costuming. You have to remember, you are part of a show. So if you take the stage wearing roughly what you might wear while doing your shopping or while standing in line at KFC, that's not a show. That's boring old regular life, and the customers didn't pay for that. The customers paid for a show. Or, to look at this through the lens of that mindset I referenced, it's a party at which you are the guest of honor, where you are being celebrated, you are the coolest person in the room, and you get to wear the most awesome looking stuff. I may not wear a crystal-studded robe while doing my shopping at Target, but when I take the stage as the master of 1,000 holds, that is exactly what I wear. Before I move on, if you're digging today's video, leave me a like-a-palooza down below, and thank you for doing that. And for tip number 2, we've got to talk about your posture. I've got 3 things to share with you. Number 1, when you take the stage, I want you to roll your shoulders back. It's going to make your chest pop. And I want you to straighten up your back to take full advantage of your height. And widen your stance so your feet are just a little bit wider than your shoulders. When you do this, it gives you a commanding posture. Tip number 3, when you walk through the curtain, you must perform a peak experience. If you're hearing that term for the very first time, if you're thinking to yourself,
Mike, what the heck is a peak experience?
Fear not. I'm going to explain it to you right now. If your character is supposed to be fired up, when you come through the curtain, I need you to perform peak fire. Shine that out as brightly as you can to every member of the audience. Or maybe your character is supposed to be nervous. When you come through that curtain, I need you to perform peak nervousness. Engage all of your theatrical tools, your facial expressions, your vocalizations, and your body language. And don't be afraid to soak in those moments of peak expression. If you rush past them, you aren't allowing the audience to live in the moment you are creating for them. Tip number 4 is crucial, so listen carefully. Stage presence and confidence are the tag team that never break up. Your ability to walk out into a room and hold direct eye contact with fans, or walking the aisle, slapping high fives and shaking the hands of the fans there, taking a moment to acknowledge that one person in the audience who happens to be wearing your t-shirt, these little things demonstrate your confidence because you can walk out into a room filled with strangers and simply own the space. What you need to understand is this. This is more than finding one fan, having an interaction, and moving on. Finding another random fan, having an interaction, and moving on. You need to strike a balance between those intimate one-on-one interactions that you have with a single fan, and then engaging the entire audience on hand as a whole. You know I've got a hack for this, right? It's a simple 3-step hack you can start using with your very next match, and it will almost instantly level up your stage presence. So listen closely. Up first, start with a very narrow view. Your focus during your entrance is going to be on just one fan. So if you are a babyface, maybe it's that fan you know who always tries to hug you on your way to the ring. Or if you are a heel, maybe you're going to identify just one fan who's wearing a shirt in support of your opponent, and you're going to pause and berate them. And you're going to hold that one beat longer than you normally would. You're going to lavish a little bit more of your attention on that fan than normal. So if you would normally pause there for 2 seconds, now it's 3. But as soon as that interaction is over, I want you to broaden your view and take in half of the audience as one. And you're going to engage the entire half of the audience. Once you're in the ring and you take center stage, that is the moment where I want you to work the crowd as a whole. So you start narrow with the one-on-one interaction, you broaden out to take in half the audience, but once you're taking center stage, that's your moment to engage the whole crowd and own the room. Tip number 5, I'd like to illustrate with a story from my own career. Some 20 years ago, give or take, I was wrestling in northern Germany, and there was nowhere I ever felt like more of a superstar than when I was wrestling in front of German wrestling fans. And I was having just a run-of-the-mill match in which I had a hold clamped on my opponent. And at this particular promotion, fans were right up against the ring. They could pound on the ring apron if they wanted to make noise. But when I was performing, thankfully, the audience, they were very attentive. They really seemed to enjoy watching the details in my work. I found this to be very gratifying. But the result was, oftentimes, things would get quiet for a moment. And in one of those quiet, studious moments, I observed a girl who was 2 people away from me sneeze very loudly. And I was not the only person to take notice of this. My opponent noticed, the referee noticed, everybody in the venue noticed. This was just one of those special, random, weird things that happens while you're performing live. And I looked this girl right in the eye and said, Gesundheit. I folded this weird thing that happened into the performance. I could have chosen to ignore it. I could have sped right past that. And I think many rookie wrestlers or wrestlers that have little to no stage presence run away from those moments. But if you can fold it in, it demonstrates a confidence and a stage presence. The tag team that never breaks up. In the same way as when you see a stand-up comedian hear a heckle come from the crowd and then turn it right back around with a quick and witty retort. You feel like this person commands the stage. These moments, they do happen. Don't rush past them. Find a way to fold them right into what you're doing. My 6th tip for you, the whole audience deserves the show. And that means your crowd work has to be aimed at even the last row. Here's my hack for you. If you are working in a well-lit room, you can probably see the back row. Or if you're working in a darkened venue, look for the illuminated exit signs to indicate where the end of the audience is. And aim your gaze out there. Look as far out as the exit signs. This will make people, even sat in the very last row, feel seen and included in the show. And I mentioned those 2 stage presence killers as well. Here's tip number 7. If the audience can see that you are lost in your memory because you're trying to recall what is next or are otherwise hesitating to launch into the next part of the match, that will read to them as amateurish. And that robs you of your stage presence. The other stage presence killer is when you allow any real-life circumstance to infect your performance. You know what I mean by this? Maybe you just got dumped by your significant other. Maybe you just got fired from your normie job. Perhaps you had 4 flat tires on the way to the venue. If you allow any of these real-life circumstances to rob your energy, passion, or focus from the performance, it is killing your stage presence. If you are a professional who has been hired to entertain an audience, you have to check all of that at the door. Don't allow it to become part of what you bring to the stage. My loyal patron, Mr. Dugan, requested this video, so I'm dedicating this one to him. If you'd like to support the work of Till We Make It, there's a link directly to my Patreon down below in the descriptus, and another that's appearing on screen right now. It vaguely resembles a P. If you want to make sure every element of your entrance is right, then we need to talk about all 7 of those elements, which we do in the video appearing on screen now.